Good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome also from my side to Exile Talks Stand Up, a premiere in this new format. It's an honor to guide you through this special edition tonight of this monthly live storytelling series. The setup tonight is quite simple. One stage, even 9 performers, Vera, because there were so many strong applications, and 5 minutes each. So one stage, 9 performers, 5 minutes each. But what you hear is anything but simple. We bring together voices that travel far beyond borders, voices that have crossed continents, conflicts, and often impossible choices just to keep telling the truth. Our storytellers tonight are journalists, writers, artists, and human rights defenders from 7 different countries that I will mention later. And all of them were forced to leave home. And all of them continue to fight for freedom of expressions, for dignity, and for the right to be heard. They've brought with them not just professional experience, but lived experience. The kind that really rarely makes headlines, yet shapes the world in ways that matter deeply. Stories of exile and resilience, stories of press freedom and the lack of it. Stories also of finding humor in hard places and rebuilding life in new ones. So we can sum up that we can expect a triple H tonight, which are the 3 words: honesty, humor, and of course, heart. And that's really what Exile Talks is about, I guess. Every month, as you've heard, CORRECTIV.Exile creates a space where exiled media professionals can share their expertise and their perspectives, free from censorship, free from fear. This evening wouldn't be possible without the support of Engagement Global, with funds from the BMZ, which is the German Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development. We are grateful for their commitment to elevating these important voices. We have some little rules for tonight. The first one, please don't take photos of people that you don't know. So you are allowed to take selfies, but for the others, please ask them beforehand. Second rule, to ensure that all speakers have a comparable amount of time, a little singing bowl will sound after 5 minutes. And this signal will let them know that they need to come to the end of their speech. So they don't have to stop immediately, but they should come to the final lines. After each presentation, I will ask one brief question to the speaker. And all of you will also have the opportunity to talk to the performers, but because of time reasons, not during the show, but immediately afterwards. We already invite you now to stay later for Glühwein, snacks, and conversations also with the speakers. So thank you once again for being here and for listening to stories that really deserve to be heard. So let's begin. Yeah, this is your applause, and for the brave speakers that I'm happy to announce now. And our first storyteller tonight comes originally from Russia. She once reported on the stories that shape everyday lives. People facing poverty, families fighting illness, communities trying to protect the historic center of St. Petersburg. But then everything changed. When the full-scale war against Ukraine began, many of her colleagues were silenced. Words like truth and independence, once the basic tools of her work, suddenly became dangerous. And so she turned her attention to the stories of political prisoners. She sat in courtrooms where intimidation wasn't hidden, it was part of the process. Tonight, she brings us the stories of 5 of those prisoners and tells us what she saw with her own eyes in those courtrooms. She now lives in Germany, working as a journalist for Badische Neueste Nachrichten, and lives in a city with a beautiful name, Gaggenau, where she continues to tell stories about migration, identity, freedom, and the responsibility that comes with bearing witness. She believes that personal testimony still has the power to close the distance between us and the events we read about in headlines. And she wants her 3-year-old son to grow up in a world where truth and courage still matter, and where he knows exactly what his mother did to defend them. Please welcome our first speaker of the evening, Anastasiia Romanova.
May 2022. I step out of the subway and it's freaking cold. The wind cuts right through me and I shiver. I always ask myself, why do they schedule this court hearing so early? Everyone knows they will be delayed anyway. The authorities always delay political cases. They don't like it when too many people come to support the political prisoners. I haven't really slept for 3 months. 3 months of terror, 3 months of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. And on the second week of the war, I find out that I'm pregnant. How ironic. I do everything just on time. I became an independent journalist at the age of 14. And I won't let Russian authorities take that away from me. So I tell myself, calm down, get back to work. The St. Petersburg City Court is the massive block of grey glass and concrete. Lifeless, threatening. I walk inside. There's a huge line of people waiting to get through the security, all here to support artist Alexandra Skochelenko. She was arrested for replacing the price tags in the supermarket with small anti-war placards. For that, she faces up to 7 years in prison. Suddenly I hear laughter, I turn around, and I see my friend Anu. She has been protesting from the very first day of the war. But today she is wearing a clown costume, a curly wig and a red nose. She tells me, I just wanted to show how silly and absurd all the censorship laws and these arrests are. At that day, she started a new protest movement, the court clowns. I admire the creativity of these brave and beautiful people, their ability to make themselves visible even when all other forms of protest have been destroyed. Every time when I meet clowns in courtrooms, I feel how this impenetrable cold becomes just a little bit warmer. But at the same time, when I watch the number of political cases grow and the court clowns have more and more works to do, I keep thinking, okay, they can offer support and hope to those who need it, but they cannot change the very reason why do all these people need this support in the first place. Meanwhile, my belly grows heavier from day to day. I go to court at least 3 times a week, covering new political trials. Yeah. I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes, so between the interviews with lawyers and relatives of political prisoners, I measure my blood sugar and eat from my little diet containers. The supporters and my colleagues notice that and start bringing me dark chocolate and nuts. Security guards, on the contrary, become more aggressive. They threaten me with a stun gun for taking pictures. My baby's favorite lawyer, he actually jumped inside me when she spoke, was Anastasiia Romanova. She defends a 26-year-old manager, Victoria Petrova. She tries everything, but Victoria still faces the forced psychiatric treatment. Around that time, we have our gender reveal party. It's a boy. And I got a new case. Oleg Belousov, 56 years old, a vinyl collector. His adult son has severe mental disabilities, nevertheless court sends Oleg to pretrial detention, and he faces up to 5 years in prison because someone denounced him. I make an interview with this man, the denunciator, and he starts to threaten me. He promises to sell me to prison, as he has done that with Oleg. He comes to Oleg's hearings and enjoys the power he has. Security guards love him. They promise to set the dogs on the supporters and on me. I was 8 months pregnant. I couldn't run anymore. So I simply stepped aside. And on the 1st of December, my boy was born. When he was 9 months old, we left the country. Now he's 3. We named him after Alexei Navalny. Our Alexei is also a fighter, but now he fights almost against brushing his teeth and taking off his shoes. He's safe, but he has a Russian passport. And I'm pretty sure that one day he will be asked, what was your mama doing when the war began? And now he has the answer. Thank you.
Anastasiia,
Yep.
thank you so much. Can I be heard?
Thank you for the opportunity.
There would be so many questions, but I only have the time for asking one. So if anyone wants to help these political prisoners, is there an organization that they can support? What would be your advice?
With money or with words, with what?
Just one advice. If someone says, I want to help now, what would be your first advice?
To write a letter. The attention for the people who are imprisoned is the most valuable and the most important thing. And this attention which they get, that is the most valuable. So we can do, at the moment, nothing to rescue them, to save them. But these people are truly worth to hear the words of support, the words of love. And yeah, so just we can make that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Very strong answer. Thank you, Anastasiia. And happy belated birthday to your little son. I just realized it's been 2 days ago, right? Great. Congrats to Alexei. And if you want to know how you can send letters, you can talk to her afterwards. The next voice you'll hear tonight comes from a country where independent journalism has been pushed into some of its darkest years, Azerbaijan. His background is in human rights and media support, and for years he worked alongside journalists and activists who risked their freedom to keep a fragile space for truth alive. But the story he brings to us tonight begins in a very specific moment. An airport, a few meters distance, and the sudden arrest of a colleague. What looked at first like one targeted detention turned out to be much more. That moment became the doorway into a sweeping crackdown on independent media in Azerbaijan. A campaign that would place nearly the entire Abzas media team behind bars and force others, including him, into exile. From that point on, the newsroom he knew became a place shaped by fear. But in exile, that fear transformed. It became the responsibility to keep speaking for those who cannot, to make sure that the stories of imprisoned journalists travel further than censorship can reach, and to remind the world what courage looks like under repression. Tonight, he wants to show us the human side of a political crackdown, the choices people make when the stakes are impossibly high, the risks they take to protect the truth, and what it means when the storytellers become the story themselves. Let's give a warm round of applause for Subhan Hasanli.
Actually, everything was started 2023 November. I was in Bosnia and I am in hotel lobby and making and eating my breakfast. And I saw my friend Sevinch Vagevkoza, who was the editor-in-chief of Abzas Media, was very nervous. So I didn't know the reason. And then I opened the Facebook and I saw that the director of Abzas Media, Yuliia Valova, jailed. And the same day, we need to back to Azerbaijan. And at the airport, I saw that a lot of people are calling us, me also, Sevinch, and our friends, that please do not back to Azerbaijan, otherwise, particularly Sevinch will be jailed. But actually, I don't know if I was in the same situation, what I will do, but I saw that the Sevinch repeatedly denied to all these advice, and she said that if their friends are in the jail, she will be returned to Azerbaijan. And I remembered one moment where Sevinç gave me her passport for doing check-in. I was thinking about tearing the passport because of the not to allow him to back to Azerbaijan. But at the same time, I know that if I did like that, she will blame me the entire of my life that why you did this. And after the aircraft landed to Azerbaijan, Baku, I think 4 police officers entered to the aircraft and arrested Sevinç, 4-5 meters between us. And I only saw that he claimed from the police that to prove their identity and their identity card. And I was thought that how in that challenging moment the person can ask from the police to prove their identity, which is, I think, very courage act. And everything we started on that moment, and the big crackdown started with Azerbaijani civil society and journalists. And then Sevinç got, in 2025 March, Sevinç got 10 years sentences, and also others 5 Abzas media journalists jailed. And in nearly Sevinç got Courage Award from the Reporters Without Borders in the world. He got a Courage Award. And this decision also shaped my life, my entire life. And I moved to exile to support the Azerbaijani political prison. Particularly, we have currently in Azerbaijan 9 women journalists, which is under Aliyev regime. They are making everyday repression, even exiled from the inside of the prison center to another facility. So my motivation currently is to defend political prisoners from Azerbaijan, and I know that this courage deserves protection from us and from the entire of the world. Thank you very much.
Subhan Hasanli. Subhan, one question. What gives you hope in these challenging times? Is there any hope for the future? Is Reporters Without Borders helping? What gives you hope that you can help your colleagues?
I believe that the truth in every dark times, the truth will win at the end. That's my hope.
Thank you. Let's fight for that. Thank you. Now, please get ready to meet an independent Ukrainian journalist and researcher working between Berlin and Kiev. And her investigations examine not only the human cost of Russia's war against Ukraine, but also the less visible front lines, the battle over heritage, memory, and meaning. Her reporting has shown that war destroys more than buildings. It targets the foundations of a nation, its archives, its artworks, its landscapes, its sense of self even. Her work has contributed to a growing international conversation about the crimes committed not only against people, but against art, history, and cultural identity, and about how the world must adapt its legal tools to protect them. She writes for Der Tagesspiegel now, where she explores the cultural and ecological dimensions of war. And she approaches every story with the convictions that behind every object and every landscape, there are people. Their memory, their work, their resilience. Tonight, she brings us a story with a powerful title, Stealing Identity, Russia's War on Ukrainian Heritage and Children. In it, she reminds us that culture is not a luxury in wartime. It is a line of defense. Preserving it means preserving truth itself. It's my pleasure to introduce Yuliia Valova.
Very much. You almost described what I wanted to say. To the auditory, I will use my phone just only to have a look at the numbers of which I wanted to show you. So this is really strange because of the neighbor who named us many years. Who named us a brother become to be officially demonstrate the intentions to destroy the national atoll. Not only this territory now under the attacks, our children, our historical objects, our museum, they're trying to grab the identity of us and at the same time to destroy the name of Ukraine. I would like to begin my story from the discussion with one Georgian volunteer who is working now on the border with occupied territory on the front line, just only 20 kilometers from the war zone. And he is working the last 3 years to rescue the Ukrainian civilians who are trying to escape from the war zone and who is rescuing each day because they are like rabbits under Russian drone attacks who would like to kill all of civilians who can they make to kill. It's really new war conditions. And he said me, I'm doing this just because I know if you will lose this war, they will do the same with Georgia and other countries, Belarus as well, who is now suffering with their leader Lukashenko, who is next after Ukrainians. From the beginning of the war, Russian stolen or relocated and adopted more than 30 officially. It's official dates. I think numbers, it's number much higher. 30,000 children from the different ages, small one, teenagers, with different reasons. From the frontline occupied territories, with the reason to send them to the re-educated camps to grow the new Putin's army with the best traditions of Jugend. Fascistic army. I'm not afraid to name it like this. And just only this year, 11,000 children were stolen. And from the beginning of the war, just only 1,800 children were returned with the support of the partners of Ukraine, especially Turkey and Latvia and other countries who organized the very difficult process to return the children back. Because their names, their identity, their psychological connection with their land and parents were totally destroyed, especially with the small children. And the next strange things which they're doing with Ukraine, they're ruining or destroying our historical places. More than huge number. Nobody knows how many because of wars still continue. More than 15,000 historical objects, monuments, small museum, local museum were destroyed, totally destroyed or grabbed. They grabbed the most famous museums of Ukraine on the occupied territory, Mariupolsky, Melitopolsky, and Khersonsky, especially Khersonsky. They destroyed museums and grabbed all of culture heritage which were saved there. It's the Kuinji painters which costed millions. He's really famous Ukrainian painters. They now pretend that he's Russian. They grabbed the gold of Ukraine. Oh, I'm just remembering Scythian gold. Actually, they grabbed it from Khersones, but successfully that tiara, which costed billions. At that time where the war began, the first skull war began, located on the Amsterdam's museum, and Netherlands power helped us to return tiara back. But the small historical stuffs, which was in the collection of Mariupolsky Museum, were stolen by Russian. And the most strange thing that they are trying to expropriate our history. They always did it, and they continue to do this. The last picture which I printed, my colleagues helped me to print it out. They demonstrated their intentions. They used the huge banner. They shared the huge banners around Mariupol to celebrate the year of occupation of this city, or celebrate the freedom of the city against Ukrainian fascists. And they demonstrated the Princess Olga, the daughter of Yaroslav Mudry. He is the king of Ukraine. And their power was much earlier, centuries earlier than Russia were created, Moscovia were created. And they demonstrated a picture of the daughter of Yaroslav Mudry, Olga, Princess Olga, who grounded Ukrainian identity, like the Ukrainian okay. She first in the European territory, they began the European right in Ukraine. I'm just knowing. So when you, if the auditory has a journalist, when you will begin to discuss all right about this war, don't forget about such very important things. Not only about the weapon and money who our partners spending to support Ukraine to fight against a strange enemy. Don't forget about our historical ground, our children, who we would like to return back to our parents, our future and our past. Yeah, thank you. Sorry.
Yuliia, stay with me. Stay with me. Yuliia Valova. Thank you very much. You already remarked I tried to ask constructive questions to give us a bit of hope in these sometimes very desperate times. So if you could mention one organization that we could support that helps bringing back those children. I remember some news that at least some children were brought back to their families. So is there one organization that is very strong in bringing or helping to bring the children back?
I'm nervous and I would not be exactly ready to name this organization, but the main organization who is doing most on this direction were created by Helena Zelenska, the wife of Ukrainian president. But I think they has the money and low support of the partners. But the main problem is Russia not ready to do this. And just only way to help the situation, just share this information about the world, how they are stealing our children and our history, especially just only one word. They created as a long process, and they're making this better and better. They're trying to prove what they're doing. They began to demonstrate Ukrainian heritage, which were just only stolen around of the world, to create the exhibitions in Emirates and a partners country, not in the European territory, of course. and they adopted Ukrainian children to created the young this Jugend army of Putin, and they just cut it them from their own country. And if the war will forget about this mind things, we will never return our values.
Thank you, Yuliia. Let's hope for the best. Our following storyteller carries a life that cannot be summed up by a single profession, a single place, or even a single identity. He comes from Iran, and his life has taken many forms. An aerospace engineer, an Air Force lieutenant, a theater actor, a writer, a journalist, a political prisoner, and eventually an exile, even before he left home. He crossed the cold mountains between Iran and Turkey, and on that crossing, he says he grew 12 years older. Later in Germany, he earned a PhD. He grew a beard. He wrote novels, poetry, and academic books. None of them, he says, ever feeling finished. And somewhere along the way, he stopped believing in most things, even in his own life. He does not feel like a migrant. Sometimes he's even proud of that. And he does not long for the man he once was in Iran. Tonight, he brings us a story with a striking German title. Mit Gas bitte. With gas, please. But the story behind it is far deeper than a phrase. He wants to speak, among others, about migration within migration. And another interesting thought, he hopes to be buried beneath the soil of his grandfather's house. Maybe he'll tell us more about why. Please welcome on stage Reza Talebi.
I'm old, but you are so tall. Thank you. October 2023, I am arriving at the Leipzig airport. Next day, I'm going to the migration office Ausländerbehörde. I saw, or I see, it's not important, many people waiting in the line, and the woman behind the window glass shut to them, man to man and woman to woman. In my turn, I'm going to the woman, and between us es gibt eine window, without the article, I don't know. And I try to describe myself with English. She said to me, nur Deutsch. I try again. And she said to me, nur Deutsch. My blood sugar is the 500 and I am very angry. I throw all the document in this prison. Oh, sorry, Ausländerbehörde. And I want come to back. Suddenly, I think, I was Deutsch. I was German. I live in the Germany. I know Germany. When they bring me from the prison to the court, they have a Mercedes-Benz. The judge in the court has a villa in the Hanover. His daughter has a visa for the Germany. The court telephone product by Germany. The intelligence service listened to us with the Siemens productions. I know G3, German product. I feel MP5 and the bullet, German product. I saw many bombs and the weapons from the Iraqi aircraft to our city, wonderful bombs, beautiful person from the Germany. My father poisoned by the German chemical bombs from the Saddam Hussein. My mother liked the German television, Grundig. My father, medicine is very expensive, beautiful expensive, wonderful expensive. Now, suddenly, I see myself in the Ausländerbehörde. And I feel there is not Germany. There's my country. The old woman in the window tried to observe me like an intelligence service. The police say to me, "Das ist egal." When you go to the police station and they say the Iranian intelligence service broke your door, your home door, the intelligence service treat your family, hacked everything, the police say to you, "Das ist egal. Das ist egal." Without any article, this is a Germany. Okay, I accept my destiny in the Germany. And I try to find my mother. Where is my mother? Where is my mother? Yes, I killed my mother with you, with Germany, with the United States, with Russia, with any dictator in my country. I try to find my mother in Lidl, in Edeka, in Iranian market, in Arabic market, but I can't find. I can't find because I afraid. I afraid from the death. I don't want to die in this country, such as the Edward Said, such as the Rashad Hassan, such as the Daushenko. I love Earth, I love my country, but there is not my country. This is not Deutschland. Okay, this is enough. This is half of my history. I don't mind disturb you, because I want to ask from you why you are here. I know why am I here. I try to find my mother. Maybe I killed my mother with you. Maybe I am a victim with you. Maybe you are a victim. But why you are here? You are here to listening to me, to pity. After the one wine, one glass wine, 2 cup coffee, you forget everything. It's normal. You forget everything, such as the Palestine, such as the Afghanistan, such as the Iran, or another country in Middle East, not Middle East, in the West Asia. Because I want from you, don't accept us. You must accept yourself. Don't buy bloody goods. Don't sell bloody goods. You know, we have a little Germany in our countries, in the Tehran, in the Tabriz. And I want, send me in the big box with the Lufthansa German airplane to find my mother. It's my destiny. I keep my home keys from the 50 years ago. And this is my advice. Keep your home keys and the respect to another homes which destroyed by German weapons, United States weapons, and the German dictator in Tehran, United States dictator in Baghdad, and the England British dictator in the Afghanistan. Thank you.
Thank you very much for these strong messages. I don't know if my question is too political, but I read crazy news from Iran. They are running out of water. Tehran may be evacuated. So maybe a brief question. What will happen in the next month? Is the regime maybe falling?
We can't do everything without your helping, because don't help us. We can do. You believe us.
Okay, thank you. We believe in you. Thank you, Reza. Hold on to your seats now for our next storyteller. He focuses on a community too often reduced to numbers and borders. Sudanese migrants in Europe who are labeled illegal, yet whose voices travel further than anyone imagined, through rap music. You're gonna learn these songs are more than entertainment. With his current film project, our speaker follows artists who rewrite themselves, note by note, verse by verse. He began his journey in Khartoum, using storytelling to document change in his country and train young activists in citizen journalism, especially those whose voices were excluded from mainstream narratives. When war forced him to flee Sudan, storytelling became even more personal. Now living in Berlin on an artist's residency, he continues to develop films that preserve the memory, humor, and resilience of Sudanese communities in exile. Tonight, he brings us a story that connects music, migration, and survival, and reminds us that behind every statistic is a person, a journey, and a song. I invite you to welcome Ahmad Mahmoud.
Hello. I will sing first, yeah? زمان بيقولوا لك يا تلبس كاكيها يا تفوت تخليها هسه بيقولوا لك أشر جوازك بلد الفكرة والفكرة لا تموت. This song is titled The Idea That Never Dies. It's a song by Rashid Tibin, and he's a rapper, a Sudanese rapper from the Nuba Mountains in Sudan. Today he is a Django in France. I will translate the verse first. I will try to translate because poetry is not really translatable, I think. But he starts by saying, they used to tell you wear the army uniform or leave your home. But now I tell you, get a visa to the land of the idea that never dies. And it might not make sense to you, but the idea that never dies is migration. Sudanese migrants have decided to not use the word migration. They say the idea, and you immediately understand they're talking about migrating to Europe specifically. And in the process of migrating, they become known as Django. They chose this name for themselves, poetically also, because originally the word Django meant seasonal farmers, young men and women in Sudan who go and work on lands seasonally, lands that they do not own. So these travelers chose this name as well to refer to themselves, despite everyone on the way calling them illegal migrants. And their journeys start in different parts of Sudan, all united by just one dream and one idea, which is migration. In the verse, he also mentions that his options were either to wear the army uniform or to leave his home. And if you look at the pictures displayed under my name over there, you will realize that our high school, public high school uniform was a military uniform. It was a constant reminder that the state is preparing us for the army. The army had two choices for us. We either recruit you or we kill you. But many of us resisted, and in 2019, all of us resisted, and we toppled the military regime after occupying the military headquarters in over a dozen cities all over Sudan. And in the coming month after the revolution, when we were hopeful and building, the army retaliated by waging the current ongoing war in Sudan. The war that displaced more than 12 million people, me being one of them. But back to Europe, because on the day the war started, on April 15th of 2023, my passport was at the Swedish embassy in Khartoum, because I was invited for Malmö Film Festival. And as the custom goes in our part of the world, European embassies keep your passport. So when the war broke out on that morning and the airplanes were flying over my house and the bombings was non-stop, the Swedish embassy evacuated, leaving my passport and passports of hundreds of other Sudanese locked inside the embassy. All the other EU embassies did this. Germany, Netherlands, even the US, of course the US. So I was stuck for 9 months in Sudan during the war. I had to evacuate from my city to another city, a safe city, which was relatively safe up until the point where it became extremely militarized, and it became even dangerous to go on the street, because these are the same guys that we defeated just a few years ago. and we toppled and we put in jail. Now they are free and they are ruling us in the name of war. So I described Rashid Tibin, the singer, the artist, as a Django. And I explained to you what the word Django means. And today, Djangos in Europe, all over Europe, have come here not the way I came. I had the privilege of writing emails, applying for grants, applying for proposals. They had to cross the deserts of Libya. They had to cross the Mediterranean Sea, and they had to cross vast European forests. And at every turn, at every checkpoint, and at every detention center, what kept them going was their poetry, was this music, rap music. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Ahmed. I mentioned your current film project, so when will we be able to see that film and where? Is that already decided?
Funding.
And you're hoping for film festivals all over Europe?
Still early in development. I just got here 2 months ago. So, yeah.
All the best. You really made us wanting to see this movie with the rap music. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker emigrated 2022 from Moscow because of the political situation. And tonight she wants to perform a stand-up with funny, heartbreaking, warm, and also uncomfortable moments from her own life as a young girl, figuring out how to live in Europe all on her own. From an early age, activism and art have been inseparable for her. Her first political conversation with her mother was about a musical, her second about LGBTQ rights, all before she even started school. At 16, she applied to university to direct a play raising awareness about domestic violence. And she was laughed at by grown men who thought her ambition was impossible. Then came the full-scale invasion and the threats that followed. Warnings that if she left, she might not survive. That abroad, she would be nothing more than a dot instead of a line. That she'd never make it in theater and would end up cleaning floors for a living. Yet she left. And despite all the hardship of exile, she never looked back. And after 3.5 years, she's here tonight, finally able to do what she loves most, create, perform, and share her art. So get ready for laughter, honesty, and a sharp eye on life's absurdities with Yuliia Chaplygina.
How many of you have been to Berghain? Don't be shy, please. Okay, kind of uncultured audience today here, but that's okay. I've been there when I just came here. Yes, I was 19, and me and my roommate, we decided to go because that's like a big Berlin thing. And we were standing like in this big line, and one guy came to us to talk about something. We spoke German, and then another girl came by, and we switched to English. And as always, we kind of moved to politics. I think it was around elections, or maybe, something like this. We were talking about something, and at some point he said something along the lines of like, oh yeah, it's like, it's getting so easy for immigrants right now. Like, they can have like more and more things, and this like 3-year passport thing, like I really don't like it. I was like, what else? And at some point it was like, yeah, I just hate it. I just kind of like hate them, and I just hate all this. And no one ever taught me how to shut up. So I was like, oh yeah, well, I'm an immigrant, and my friend too, because I also made my friend feel unsafe, not just me. And he was like, oh, and I saw his face like go white, and he was like, but you're students. And I was like, yeah. Also, I wasn't a student, so I was like, I'm not even a student, man. I'm worse. I'm like the bad immigrant. I'm not a student. I got visa like just because I cried. He was like, but you speak German. I'm like, yes, not also like this level of German, but yeah. He's like, and you don't have an accent in English. I'm like, yes, Yes, still an immigrant, bro, still an immigrant. And then he was with us like for the whole time, and he was very loudly saying that he works in an army and how he's proud to be like a German man who works in an army. And I think that's why we couldn't get in. I hope that's why, not like our fits or something. Anyways, when my visa was expiring, I got into a theater university in Frankfurt. And so I had to move from Berlin and also go through this famous experience of waiting for a new Termin in the Ausländerbehörung. And I applied in the middle of July, and like just taking a brief guess, think when did I get like my Termin? It was 25th of February, which is already a very bad like date for anyone who immigrated because of a full-scale invasion, because it's like right after 24th. And yeah, also they didn't want to make it too easy for me, so no one gave me like a Fiktionbescheidung, even though I tried my best. I went with everyone I knew who spoke like amazing German, with like loud, scary man. No, I didn't get anything. So for 6 months, I couldn't leave the country, but I also couldn't work. I didn't have any working documents, so I couldn't find a normal flat. I was living in a room with 3 old men who loved to walk naked and never cleaned. And somewhere around Christmas, I was getting very depressed and very crazy. I worked only illegally for legal reasons. That's a joke. And I remember I was telling my professor, like, yeah, I have to leave to go to this random country to do this work because I need all the work I can. She was like, oh, why? I'm like, yeah, my documents, blah, 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 blah. And she was like, but you're now a German student. I'm like, yes. She's like, oh, but you get your visa pro mail as you became a student. I'm like, yes, because this is famously Germany. They just give you visas pro mail. And it's still crazy to me because this woman was like a professor in in a German university in Frankfurt, and she really thought I should just get my visa pro mail. And then they also were like, yes, we can apply you for like this stipendium. It's called Deutsche Volk. I'm like, guys, they're not going to take me. Bad news. Something that's called Deutsche Volk would not want me, also without any documents. Like, be realistic. And so around Christmas, a lot of people in the university who tried to be very nice because I was already studying in German. I was feeling very depressed. I couldn't work. I couldn't see anyone. I was going crazy. And they were like, are you going to see your family on Christmas? I was like, oh, yay. Yes, guys, I'm going straight to prison. Yes, sure. I was like, no. And they all kept going. Such nice people were like, oh, why? Do you need any help? Don't you want to see your family? I'm like, oh. Let's not talk about me not being able to go back to Russia for Christmas, please. And I got so crazy that then my friend like said to me, oh yeah, there is this show in Paris. I bought a ticket. Do you want to go? And I was like, I can't. I have no documents. But also tickets were only 19 euros from Frankfurt. I was like, no, but I can't. I'm going to get deported. But it's Paris and it's Christmas. And so I went, and it was like the best trip of my life. But then I was going back, and I heard, like in this train, I heard the announcement, like, oh, we're gonna now check the documents on the border. And I remember I was like, how the fuck will I explain my mom that this is why I'm getting deported? Because I wanted to see a show in Paris on Christmas and found a free flat. I was getting ready, all of my acting abilities, to cry, to scream, to maybe go to the toilet. But then a Christmas miracle happened, and a train broke down for 4 hours, and we skipped the whole patrol. So for the first time of my life, I thought, thank you, Deutsche Bahn. Thank you, Deutsche Bahn, for making me out of this. And I remember it was like in June, so after my termin, I went again in tears, and I was like, guys, where are my documents? They're like, oh, they've been ready, we just forgot to tell you, which is also a very funny story. And I want to end my small stand-up by saying that I know that everyone getting very tired of wars because they happen all the time and everyone is like struggling. But like people who are actually involved in those wars and like live in Ukraine, they are much more tired than we are right now. And also leaving your country is already the hardest thing you can ever do. And Germany makes it only worse and more of a process of wanting to come back, of thinking you will never be a human being and wanting to just slowly die. So let's please not forget to support people, support your friends, support people you know, support communities. I have a couple of places you can go to support people. thanks for letting me vent. It's proved by TikTok that it helps you to like feel more relaxed if you vent to people. So let your friends who have hard life situationship to vent to you. And you can support me by giving me a German passport. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Julia. Maybe a short double question. Do you have the safety to be able to stay longer now in Germany? And did you ever enter Berghain afterwards?
So to not make my life too easy, I got the visa only like till my 3rd year of studies. So my last year, when I will have my bachelor, I will have to figure out something else because they thought it's going to be too easy to just close your bachelor. So I have to figure something out, which I will. And I did get into Berghain half a year later, but it was very boring and did not worth it. But yeah.
Okay, thank you. I never entered it, so good to hear, good to hear. Our storyteller number 8 brings us a story of courage that begins behind bars. She wants to speak about a friend and the campaign he started from prison, the No to Execution Tuesdays movement in Iran. Through letters and messages, the friend and his cellmates have documented the last hours of prisoners facing execution. Our speaker is an Iranian artist and activist now living in Germany. Since arriving here 3 years ago, she has continued her artistic work while dedicating herself to activism for Iran, particularly in support of prisoners and in opposition to executions. Her work exposes political oppression and human rights violations, amplifying voices that the Iranian regime tries to silence. Tonight, she brings us this urgent story about people who face death but continue to resist, about the courage found behind prison walls, and about the power of storytelling to keep hope alive. Get ready for Ghazal Abdollahi.
So thank you. And I will try not to cry myself too, but well, we'll see. So my weeks, they start on Tuesdays and not Mondays. My Mondays end long after midnight, sitting in my small room in Berlin, holding my coffee, and waiting for a letter to come, to arrive from a prison kilometers away from me. A letter that I must read, translate, design, and send to the world before morning, before everyone wakes up. And I fall asleep on Mondays, holding this pain on my chest like a stone, and wake up to a morning to Tuesday, knowing that somewhere in Iran, someone might be hanged. All this began almost 2 years ago when a video from inside prison leaked out from prisoners with death sentence begging us to do something to help them. This video broke me and my friend in prison. A friend who has been in prison now for 3 years. A friend who most of the time gives me more hope from things that I can find in Berlin in my room from anyone else here. After that video, he and his cellmates, they started this campaign. They decided that every Tuesday they would go on hunger strike. They would be the voice of the death row prisoners. And until the death penalty in Iran is abolished completely, they will keep doing this. Back then, they started calling it Black Tuesday. And somehow my life here became tied to this campaign too. In one of his first letters, he wrote about 7 prisoners taken to court. Their trial lasted only 2 minutes. The so-called judge gave them all death sentences, and they were all executed later, one by one. For weeks, myself, I woke up every day, every morning, not knowing that which one of the names that will pop up on the news, and I will read it. And I was terrified for weeks. Another letter arrived on a cold Berlin night. He wrote about a prisoner from Afghanistan who went on a dry hunger strike. The health director in prison mocked him, saying, "At worst, you die, and no one cares." And 4 days later, he died, alone, forgotten, in a corner of the prison. My friend wrote to me, "It was murder." He writes, "These wounds have settled so deeply in my soul that sometimes I can no longer bear them." He described watching an older prisoner being beaten before execution because he begged that he wants to see his mother one last time. They didn't let him. They returned his dead body to his family with his face covered in blood. And you know, in those times, I think it's like we know nothing of the pain of others. He writes about a young prisoner, the boy who had no hope, until one phone call from a girl he loved. The girl told him that she's gonna wait for him. And this gave him hope. Love gave him life. But a few days later, they executed him. He writes to me, "How much can a human witness endure?" But for me here, it's another Monday, another Tuesday. I have lost track of these days. Maybe it's raining in Berlin, I don't know. I sit with my laptop open and waiting for the letters to arrive. In the letter, he described sitting in a solitary on a Tuesday night, hearing the countdown to executions. A cleric came to the cell next door, asking the prisoner, "Do you have a will? Any unpaid religious dues?" The prisoner cried, saying, "I'm innocent. My lawyer said they will review my case." But none of it mattered. He writes, at 4 a.m., he heard dragging of chains on the ground, the sound of men being taken to be killed. It is the symphony of executions, he wrote. And there's nothing in the world for me to find to tell him to calm him. And you know, most of the days I sit by my window and see the raindrops on my window, trees dancing to the wind. And that is exactly where I sit when I open my laptop and read his letters. I open the window and like the wind comes and touches my face. And he writes to me, "Today, a man on death row said his last wish was really simple. I want to see the blue sky. When they take me to the rope, I wish they take me by the yard so I can see the blue sky one last time." And I tell myself, and now like to everyone here, he wrote when Assad in Syria fell in a letter that, hey, all dictatorships have an expiration date. And, you know, that's like why I tell, like, he gives me more hope than I can find. Yeah.
Just a short and simple question. How can we read these letters? Do you have a newsletter or what can we do to read them?
I am trying to, like, it has been 2 years that the campaign started, and they send out letters each week on Tuesday. They have an Instagram account, Twitter account, a channel on Telegram, but unfortunately, it's in Farsi. I think on Twitter, like, there's a translation possibility. But this is my job to translate the letters and publish them, and I have been, like, it is so hard to, like, read all these stories every week, and sometimes, like, every day I live with them. But I will try to translate them. But I think AI will help you guys to read them in the language you're comfortable with. Yeah.
Thank you. So if you're interested, just talk to her and she will tell you the Instagram and Twitter account. Thank you, Ghazal. Our final storyteller tonight brings us a deeply personal journey about identity, loss, and reclamation. For him, journalism was more than a job. It was who he was. Writing about women, human rights, and the political situation in Afghanistan was not only his profession, it was his voice in the world. But exile changed everything. He stopped writing. He couldn't even call himself a journalist anymore. That part of his identity, the part that defined him, felt lost. Tonight he shares this story because he knows he's not alone. Many journalists in exile feel the same, disconnected from the work that once gave their lives meaning, struggling to reclaim the voice that repression and displacement have taken away. Through his story, he's trying to rebuild what exile tried to strip from him. The impressive title of his story is "The Moment I Couldn't Say I'm a Journalist." All eyes now on our final speaker of the evening, Mushtaq Naseri.
Someone in Germany once asked me, "So, what do you do?" And honestly, for the first time in my life, I couldn't say I'm a journalist. I had said these words for years. They were not just a job description for me, but they were the part of who I was. But those words, like on that day, they got stacked. And I realized one thing very important, that I didn't only leave Afghanistan, I also left the version of myself that once I am proud of. When I left Afghanistan, I only thought, like I was thinking of that I'm losing my home. But in exile, I discovered that I also lost my identity. In Afghanistan, I reported on national issues, interviewed officials, ministers, like blah, blah, and worked in a newsroom full of energy and purpose. In exile, in Germany, I worked in warehouses, on construction sites. It's a honest and necessary work. But every day, I felt myself like drifting farther away from the journalist I used to be. I think there is a kind of tiredness that comes from physical labor. But the other one is very heavy one. And it's the tiredness of feeling invisible, the tiredness of feeling lost. The German language is like, it's became one of the hardest things I have ever done. Not just because it's a difficult language, but I felt that I'm rebuilding myself from zero. New words, new community, new country, trying to find a way, a path to the field that once like felt like home for me. Some days I was like thinking like I might never make it back, but slowly something changed. It's February 2025. Someone knocks on my door, and it's my friend, best friend, Khalid Ulfat. And I open the door, and he walks in excited and almost glowing. And I let him in, ask him about, okay, and he has come from Berlin, from a week program in AI investigative journalism. And when he came first, and the first thing he says, bro, we need to get back to journalism. We need to get back to where we belong to. I said, whoa, wait, like how? And then he explains how they wrote an investigating report just after 1 week of training. And I think they had one session here in this beautiful place. So while he talks, something in me waking up. And it was the thing that I thought I would never get it back. After that, I just tried to write things a little bit, but they were mattered. And it was a push button for me. And in the same year, I met a great guy, Dr. Musa Aziz. He is sitting there I think, here, yeah, there is. Please show me. Yeah, I met him in Barcelona, just 1 month later. Yeah, 1 month ago. Sorry. And then he asks me the question that I hate the most. What do you do? And I tell him that nothing. Why? Because my German is not good. And he says that you don't need to be a good native speaker, German speaker, to work here. There are a lot of countries you can work there. And it was like, yeah, in my mind, yeah, he's right. That's why I'm here today. That's why I'm here to tell my story and to learn from others, to hear from others. And it's very good that a lot of people, great people here, are they're journalists. And I need advices from them. I might not be fully the journalist who I once was, but I think this is the moment that things get to change and to start again. And I hope that one day comes that when someone asks me, so what do you do? I could like proudly say, I'm a journalist. Ich bin Journalist. Zeo Khabari Alim. Thanks.